All right, howdy from windy Wyoming. Glad to have you here with me. We're going to be talking today about the rules and discipline. Part of keeping order in our classroom is to have rules. I try to keep the rules very simple. I try not to have a long list of do's and don'ts, but rather just try to hit the high points. So usually my rules that I give out on a weekly basis are something along the lines of be quiet. If you have a question, raise your hand quietly and wait to be called upon. Keep your hands to yourself and then pay attention. Just kind of try to keep it simple. And then if I need other rules, I add them as needed. I may say, hey, if I see that toy again, I'm going to take it away. And it's just kind of a quick, easy rule. Only when it's needed, though. Or something such as, hey, we're going to be going down the hallway. There's some other classes. I need you guys to be quiet as we go down the hallway. And so sometimes I'll add additional rules, just situational. But I try to, on a weekly basis, keep the rules very simple. And so the other thing to think about when we give rules is if we give rules, we expect them to be followed. And so we want to make sure the children are following their rules. Oftentimes, when children raise their hand, they're like, ooh, 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 pick me, type thing. And I say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who's being quiet. Sometimes we have to remind them of what our rules are. So throughout class, sometimes we can remind them just simply by something like that. Remember, we're to raise their hands quietly. So I'm going to pick somebody who's quietly raising their hand, and then they'll try to stick their hand up as high as they can, and hope that works. It takes some work on our end to help them to follow our rules sometimes. One of the best ways to get them to follow the rules is a helper. A helper can quietly, I always sit my children in a semicircle facing me, so the helper is able to get behind each child. They can walk up quietly, tap somebody on the shoulder, ask them to stop doing something, take something away if it needs taken away, answer a question, whatever needs to be done. They can usually do that while I'm teaching class. If you're by yourself, you can, like I said earlier, you can verbally just talk to that child and help them to understand the rules better. Or sometimes I'll just stop what I'm doing and just stare right at them. And after a while, everybody starts looking around. So-and-so's not behaving. And I'll just stand there until they figure it out. And then, can we move on now? And then I'll move on with class. And so, but when we make rules, we expect the rules to be followed. And if we expect the rules to be followed, the children will learn to respect that. And what they'll ultimately do is follow the rules. And it's much easier to teach class when everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and we're not fighting with the children on the rules. And so the other thing that we talked about, and we talked about this last week, and you can go back and look up the lesson on behavior awards. It's number 15. But having a behavior award and announcing that at the beginning of class and then doing it typically at the end of class so we can make sure the child behaves all the way through. And so we talked a little bit about doing that last week. And those are very effective and a great way to positively reward that type of behavior. We talked about that in more detail in that lesson. And so I totally forgot to read my verse at the beginning. I have it turned here and everything. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, this is a catch-all verse. I love catch-all verses. Verse 40, it says, let all things be done decently and in order. And I've got another verse for you that's a little bit more on behavior we'll talk about here in a moment. So then let's talk about discipline. Now I'm just going to go over our discipline policy that we have here at Cornerstone. Yours may be different. This is just something that we have for some guidelines so teachers know how to handle discipline. So we say never strike or grab a child. Temporary physical restraint is okay if you're breaking up a fight between two children. Do not verbally abuse children. Yelling is never the answer. And then there's 3 ways that we handle discipline. Number 1, we take away privileges. Number 2, we put them in corner for a period of time. And then number 3, we ultimately take them out of the class. And we never want to threaten a child. And so it's one of those deals that we try to just verbally work through the situation. first and foremost. But if that doesn't work, sometimes we have to get a little bit more aggressive. Children's tipping their chair back and won't listen. Oftentimes we take their chair away, have them sit on the floor, something along those lines. And so that's a taking away privilege. And then, of course, anytime we discipline outside of just a verbal, hey, stop doing that, pay attention, something like that. If we actually take their chair away, then we actually fill out a form, an incident report, just so we can keep track of what happened and why, and things such as that. And so something that we do. And so then class should be a fun place where we learn about God, but we do ultimately have to have rules so that everybody can listen, learn, and we want the children to be safe as well. So the rules help us. They also help them. They keep them so that they can learn and grow, and also so that they are able to be safe as they're in our ministry. Or a rule for that would be like no running in the hallways, because that's how people run into other people or trip and get hurt. And so I've seen that many a time. All right, and in that verse I promise is Hebrews 12:11. It says, "Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby." And so it does have a purpose, and it helps move us onto God's agenda. And if we learn it when we're young, I believe it makes our lives much easier as we continue to grow and develop and serve the Lord. So with that, thanks for tuning in. Like, share, and Lord willing, we'll see you next time.